To your mind, as you look around agriculture and involved in policy and so on, what are the biggest challenges that we're facing in the next 10, 15 years?
One of the biggest problems we have is we've got a population totally removed from agriculture and where the food comes from, and I think we need to be showing what we do. I've taken a lot of general public through slaughter plants. I know they're not harvest facilities, they're slaughter plants, and if you want to sanitize it, I'll call it a meat plant. And I have them stand there and watch the cattle go up the chute, and I'm kind of amazed how quietly the cattle go up the chute. And there's been a lot of improvements made in the slaughter plants. Well, we need to be showing this stuff. We've made a lot of improvements, nobody even knows about it. I find it very frustrating, and I think the time's come to open up the door electronically. 2 years ago, I put my pig stunning videos and cattle stunning videos up on YouTube. Had several 100,000 people have looked at that. Yeah, there were some people that wrote some bad comments, and they write really nasty things. I block and delete that because I don't block dissent, but if they send me hate mail, yes, I block that, because then I want to have good discussion. If they say be a vegan, all right, well then I could have some discussion about that. I never would take that down. But we need to be showing what we do, and now with the internet tools available, we could open up the door electronically. How about have a video camera in a dairy, and you can tune into this dairy at any time and watch them milk the cows.
And that'll help kind of balance that biosecurity issue versus
There's no
openness.
biosecurity issue.
Exactly.
And there's no safety issue. There's no disease issue. And they could see what's going on in the dairy, watch over the video camera. I think Fair Oaks Dairy in Illinois is doing a fantastic job of communicating with the public. They have tours. We've got to show what we do. We need to look at everything that we do in agriculture and say, would I bring my wedding guests out here? And if you're squirming around at the idea of bringing your wedding guests out here, then may we not be doing it. Now there's some good new technologies coming down the pike. Pfizer's new product for where you just give an injection, and it's kind of like a vaccine to block the male response, and you can castrate the bull without having to do surgery on it. It's already being used in Brazil right now for pigs, and we can get rid of very, very stressful piglet castration doing that. And we do need to castrate them because they get boar taint otherwise. Figure out technologies to replace some of those painful things.
How do we get to those folks who are the most hardcore? You spoke yesterday about the bottom 10%. How do we reach them?
We have got some, what I found, I've done a lot of work with, cleaning up the slaughter plants. McDonald's buys from, 90% of all your large and medium-sized plants, which is about 75 beef and pork plants.
Okay.
And there were some bad plants. There are some plants. There's some large plants, obviously I'm not going to name them. They're not on the McDonald's approved supplier list. What's interesting is who's not on it. And there are plants that have never been on it. And they've had a history of problems. Another problem I'm running into in setting guidelines for things like animal welfare or environmental guidelines, whatever the guideline is, there's a tendency for this bottom 10% of really bad producers get on these welfare committees and hold back making a really strict, tough standard. You don't want to set the standard where the worst places can pass. What you ideally want to do is set a standard where your really good places pass, and then you give everybody else time to work up to the standard.
To get up to that.
Let's look at something like lameness in the dairy cow. Lameness in the dairy cow right now is at 25% nationally. That's disgusting. When I started in the industry, it was 5%. It's slowly gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. That's what I call bad becoming normal. The top dairies are at 5%. And a lot of that lameness is poor management.
Okay.
Just poor management, poor care of freestall beds. They're standing around too much water. They don't take care of their feet. The good dairies are controlling it.
So now, are the solutions the regulations? Is it the producers
I have
that are
seen,
alongside them?
most of the things that I've worked on in the last 10 years on auditing has all been with large meat buying customers, where you put on economic pressure. A plant cleans up its act because it doesn't want to get kicked off the McDonald's approved supplier list.
Right.
I've worked with, I'm also worked with Whole Foods. I've worked with a number of the niche markets. Okay, you get some little organic market. I tell them, you don't want to have a horror show down there at your little bitty plant that's doing your stuff. You definitely don't want to have that.
Now, when you began your work, a lot of resistance out there.
When I started my work in the early 70s, nobody was doing any work on good handling. Now you've got lots of people going around doing low-stress cattle handling workshops. That's fantastic. None of that existed when I started. I was looked at like I was absolutely crazy when I started. cattle handling was atrocious in the early 70s.
So now things have changed a little better.
Cattle handling's definitely getting better. Now the thing that kept me going when I first started out is there always were a few people that did things right. So it was sort of like I could see a ray of sun through the clouds that good cattle handling actually was possible. What I think's happening with all the interest in cattle handling is the proportion of people that are going to do things right, I think that's expanding. But there's still a bottom 10% of bad actors that are still there, and they're just as bad as ever.